He's angry about mortgages. It's Angry Mortgage. He's swearing. He's cursing loud. He's old. He's opinionated. And he's been doing this so damn long. This program is about mortgages, and this is mortgage advice, but the advice may not apply to your situation. Contact licensed mortgage professionals for specific recommendations before you make decisions about mortgages. You may not agree with Ron, but if you don't, he thinks you're wrong. Oh, and did we say there is a lot of swearing?
We're back on the air. Angry Mortgage is back. We're back.
With Ron's
we are
angry
back.
Face.
My producer Jessica just told us both that good. It's perfect. You have an angry face, Ron. You look angry. Okay,
that
perfect.
was the inspiration for the pod.
The whole thing.
It's not
always angry.
It's not kitty cat kisses and mortgages.
not unicorns and
rainbow
flowers,
farts.
Rainbows. Yeah, no, not at all. Fuck.
It's your angry face.
Your angry face, right? Jesus Christ. Okay, so it's Natalie Butler.
Yes.
Realtor extraordinaire.
That is me.
And Ron Butler, ancient semi-retired mortgage broker.
Angry face.
Angry face. And by the way, this is something else somebody said in some of the comments on YouTube. Someone said, well, where are you guys? Okay, so we're broadcasting from the world headquarters of Angry Mortgage.
Yes.
And in beautiful, smoke-filled Toronto, like right by Pearson Airport. If anybody knows where that is, I think most people do in Canada, because if you're from other parts of Canada, you come through Pearson Airport to get to a lot of other places.
God help you when you do.
And God help you if you're with Air Canada. And I don't give a fuck if they treat me bad because they treat you bad anyway. Like, I want people sometimes tell me, I don't think you should badmouth these companies because when you're on the air, because they may take revenge on you. How the fuck could Air Canada do anything worse than Air Canada does every day? It's impossible. Anyway, we're up by the airport. That's where the world headquarters of Angry Mortgage is. And it's so fucking smoky.
It is. It's crazy.
It's as far as fire, madness, and it's just the days. My eyes. I'm fine. My breathing's fine. How do you find it?
I smoke a pack a day, so
I guess if you're a smoker, it's just sort of, if you smoke cigarettes or you smoke weed, I guess it's just sort of a slightly different flavor.
Now,
but
I have to quit. I do know I have to quit.
Yeah.
Working on that, have been for quite some time. Yeah. But we were out on our deck, and my husband, Will, he goes, "Do you really think we should be sitting out here with all this smoke as we're smoking cigarettes?"
As he lights up a Belmont.
I think we'll be okay. I think we'll be fine.
No, the only thing I notice is my eyes are irritated. I don't notice anything else.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
You know what? Because I've been getting it
in
makeup run, so that probably is what it is.
No, it's and folks, for you in other parts of Canada, but I don't think there's any part of Canada that has not seen this forest fire bullshit.
Well, and the states are pissed.
Yeah, and can you imagine can you imagine what they're trying to say?
New York hates us.
Yeah, what is Trump? If Trump gets back in as president,
never.
We're going to build a wall between. We're going to build a wall, a very, very tall wall. It's got to be really tall. It's got to be 6 miles high.
One of those domes like in The Simpsons.
Yeah, they're going to put a dome over the United States. Right.
This?
Yeah. They're going to put a dome over the United States. Yeah. We got to prevent the smoke. Those goddamn Canadians. They're lighting their forests on fire to try to hurt us. I mean, trust me.
I think it was deliberate.
Hey, to all of our friends in the United States of America, it's worse for us. Yeah. Honest to God, it is worse for us.
And the poor people that are living in close proximity, you got to.
Oh, my God. It's unbelievable.
I can't. We're suffering over here. We're nowhere near.
Nowhere near to have like those.
We're a 4-hour plane ride away, I feel.
The people in Nova Scotia who just went home to find there was 200 houses gone. I mean, that's just insane. And there's nothing left. I mean, if you got out of you evacuated the house with your pets and your family and a handful of clothing, you come back, you got nothing. You got nothing. So everything that you have accumulated over your lifetime is gone. This is tragedy. Absolute tragedy. So, yes, it's smoky in Toronto, but we got it better off than the people who are really suffering, for sure.
That's for sure. First world problems.
Very much first world problems, 100%. But I do love the idea that you are sitting out on the deck and lighting up at Belmont, and just as you're inhaling, you're saying, "You think we should be out here? This could be dangerous."
I know, and I'm gonna get it too from admitting that I'm a smoker, because we're like lepers now. You can't tell people you smoke anymore. It's just not
smoking
acceptable.
has to be kept a closely held secret.
Yeah.
You're right.
I think I'd be better off, like better accepted if I told people I did like heroin or something.
Well, they would send you to a safe injection site.
Well, exactly.
So there you go. But that is the sort of the of some of the things that have happened in my life. The idea that everybody should smoke marijuana and shouldn't smoke cigarettes is probably the biggest transition.
Yeah.
I mean, that has got to be one of the most incredible transitions of my life.
I wish I could smoke weed. I wish I could. I can't.
Well,
I'll just
take the candy then. I mean, take the edibles.
I can't do any of it. I've tried. I've tried it.
Good? All right.
And with me, it's like Russian roulette. It's either okay, or I pass out, or I puke uncontrollably, and I'm not willing to play that.
No,
roulette.
that is definitely Russian roulette.
Yeah,
with cannabis for sure.
Yeah,
but,
no, I can't do it. I wish I could though.
Like, I mean, I got me. I embrace all drugs. I really do.
We do not.
I really, really
Ron,
do. I embrace all
not.
drugs, but I can't be bothered with most of them. I obviously like wine. I'm a wine guy, even though I don't drink much of it. I do like a sip of it once in a while.
We reap all the benefits.
Yeah, some others reap the benefits, and I do love wine, although I'm not a huge consumer, and I think all drugs are good. Like, I've probably tried every drug on the planet in my day. Okay, I don't never mainline.
Well, you did
never mainline smack, but other than that, I mean, I've probably tried everything.
You did live through the 70s.
I did live through the 70s. When acid was just freely available, LSD, and it's a long list. So I'm basically pro drug in the right setting.
Jesus
in the right setting, honestly, in the right setting. Keep it away from the kids. Keep it away, But here's what I do believe. I believe that the approach they've taken in other countries in Europe, where drugs are decriminalized, is a reasonable approach.
Well, isn't it legal now in some provinces to walk around with like a gram of cocaine?
Oh, it's you can.
Was that like a new thing? Like it's okay.
I think in Vancouver they're trying to make sure that people get safe fentanyl. That people who are addicted to fentanyl, they get safe fentanyl.
No,
look, I'm just happy. I'm always happy that they prevent people from getting killed. I don't want to see anybody killed.
No,
okay, that's terrible. And I've never been hung up on the drug thing. I realize it does tremendous damage in people's lives, but let's also face facts. Nothing does as much damage as alcohol. It's true. Nothing. And I am not acceptable. Absolutely. But I am not. And these guys came out with that study about everybody, we're all good. We need to put warning labels on booze. Well, guess what? Fuck yourself. Okay. There will be if I see warning labels on booze, I'm going to start to write on them. I'll go to LCBO and start writing on them. Fuck you, label people. Okay. Like, Jesus Christ. Humans have been consuming alcohol for somewhere around 8,000 years. So the fucking horse has left the barn on that shit, okay? Like, enough is enough. Like, we went through Prohibition. We tried Prohibition in North America, which the only result was the invention of organized crime, okay? Like, crime was just little local families trying to do their shit up until Prohibition, but after that, it's a business. Yeah. That's what happened. So no, and it's alcohol so widely acceptable. I could go to the LCBO and buy $5,000 of the liquor if I wanted to during COVID, but I couldn't go into a Walmart and buy new underwear. Yes, and there's a joke there somewhere, but I'm not going to do it. So, not going to do that joke. All right, Angry Mortgage. Back to the topics of the day in mortgages. What's going on? Okay, so if we sometimes I dip into the mailbag. We get comments. Okay, we get comments from people on YouTube, and so when I look at that mailbag, we get comments on Spotify. We get questions. We got all kinds of questions and things. So if I look at what are the main questions we get, here's what it is in the mailbag. Okay, will the Bank of Canada raise interest rates again in July 12th is the meeting? We don't fucking know. We didn't know last time either. Sure as shit didn't know last time. I mean, wrong on that one. Although I didn't give it a lock. Like the the previous 3 times where it did not go up, I said it is a mortal lock. It will not go up. But I just hedged my bets on this last one.
I think the dude, I forget his name, heard you make fun of him, so he just wanted to make you look like an asshole.
Well, no, I started making more fun of him afterwards. After the increase, I started doing the voice.
Yes, this is Tiff Macklin, and I strongly object to that ridiculous voice that very fat man uses on that podcast.
So everyone in a variable rate mortgage, it's Ron Butler's fault.
No, shit. I get enough trouble every day without that.
And his email is...
All right, what's going to happen? July 12th, stay the same or go up?
Oh, for the love of God, stay the same, please.
No, I'm thinking 60-40 up.
Really?
That's my guess. That's my best estimate. That's my, you can't get a betting line on this stuff or else some people will be making a fortune on it. But that's my thought. 60-40. There's another 25 beeps. Here's where it comes from. Wow. He's about 10 days ago, he said in a speech that his final number is 5, and right now he's at 4.75. So that's another quarter. And look, I think it's just the truth. The real big central bankers in the world had a meeting last week, which is the U.S., Britain, the Economic European Union, and Japan, and they all sat around a table. And Japanese guy didn't say much because his translation software wasn't his ear wasn't working so good. But the consensus was there would be more increases until there is definitive recession. Like rates aren't coming down. I mean, if I was to say I think it's 60-40. There is an increase in July. I think that is the last increase for sure. Because I believe, well, I don't knock on wood, but is this laminate? I guess there's some wood somewhere involved. There's wood involved. Yeah. So I'm thinking the real story is that it's more than likely the recession is coming. You just pick up little vibes from everywhere, little layoffs. So
what are your top 3 of key hints that the recession is here?
Talk about layoffs. Talk about layoffs.
But there have been layoffs.
There have been layoffs. But layoffs in companies like Ford are different. When tech companies lay people off, the truth is a lot of digital companies, they had too many fucking people anyway. Yeah. Okay. They just had a lot of people. And by the way, when you look, the tendency is when digital or tech people are laid off, they just immediately go and get another job because there's a lot of, but when Ford lays off management, the other car companies aren't hiring.
Well, actually, Ford's going through, I know this for a fact, there's going to be I think 6 months, they're hoping shutdown because they're going completely EV, the one on Ford Drive here.
They're going to pure EV, yeah. So
well, they're putting an EV line. I don't know, something like that.
There's got to be EV line.
I just know people who work there that said they're going to have an extended time off.
But when they lay off managers,
management.
Absolutely. The plants change over. There was always a shutdown in the summer, but you're right. Sounds like a more extensive shutdown. Yeah. But managements, they don't come back. Yeah. When they're gone, they don't come back. So other hints that I get is that you just know the banks, there's this quiet rumors of small levels of layoffs. And by the way, the banks have been on a hiring freeze for a long time. I think the banks have been on a hiring freeze for damn near a year.
Wow.
So it's sort of a stealth thing. It's stealth unemployment, but it's starting to become more clear. And let's face it, every single, even Apple's sales in North America aren't what they used to be. They're down a touch.
Well, everybody has every bloody product under the sun. There's nothing left to get.
Nothing left. That company's on the way to becoming a $3 trillion company, believe it or not. It's just incredible. But the vibe is there. I mean, and here's one thing that's for goddamn sure. You don't hear about any companies growing rapidly except these IA companies like ChatGPT and that kind of thing. I mean, that's obviously the coming thing, but you don't hear about, business is booming at Staples. You never hear that. Costco. Here's a hint. This is an interesting hint that I got off another podcast, which is a great podcast called The Looney Hour. And they, Steve Saretsky, Rich Diaz, Keith Thicker, and they're great guys. Yeah. So this is an interesting one. This is Costco analyzes changes in buying habits in Costco. So what does that mean? That means if the sales, you know how they sell that huge rack of ribeye steaks at Costco? It's always there. Mm-hmm. When fewer and fewer people are buying that and more chicken and hamburgers being sold, they do that kind of analysis. Like, are people switching what they would buy because they have to economize? Okay.
They have to be better. But the hot dog will always be $1.
$1.50, right?
$1.50.
$1.50 for that hot dog. I guess if I ate hot dogs, that would be important.
I sometimes have a craving and will go to Costco specifically for a hot dog.
Good for you.
It's an amazing hot dog. It's very nice.
You know, if there used to be a company in Toronto who made these like organic, and they weren't organic, but they were like really homemade kind of hot dogs where they used real casings and everything else and high quality ingredients, and those are good. But I'm not much of a hot dog eater anymore. If you ever understood how hot dogs are made, you know, like it's not that good.
Don't care.
I don't care. Great.
As I like my Belmont, I don't care.
There's my answer. That is my answer to that question about the rate increase. Now, the other big question that comes in the mailbag, comes in the comments section, is when will rates go down? Because, you know, we saw fixed rates go up to almost 1% in some cases over the last 4 weeks, and they're staying up. And when do they go down? Well, they go down when it's crystal clear that central banks like the U.S. Fed and the Bank of Canada will have to cut rates. So that could be a long time. That
when
could be
when they reach their kill count,
where there is like a really bad recession going on, and the Bank of Canada governor, Tiff Macklin, says, well, the tremendous deterioration in the economy will probably force us to consider rate cuts at some point. As soon as that word consider comes out of Tiff's yap, then you know there's a chance that fixed rates will respond. Fixed mortgage rates run in advance of the Bank of Canada. They knew that it was going up, and they went up before the bank first went up, and they'll go down before the Bank of Canada goes down. So the answer is, when the shit hits the fan economically, you can probably guess that that's when fixed rates will go down.
Well, I think what people need to understand, though, too, is I'm working in the real estate industry. People are waiting for rates to go down. I think we all need to understand that we're not going to see COVID interest rates again. I don't think.
That is
the
most important thing. Absolutely.
You're going to be waiting a long time if that's what you're waiting for.
No, you will wait. Oh my God. Like, I know this. When I say that we will never see that 0.99.
It's insane.
We would never see that 1.49, that 1.89, that 1.99 rate again. When I say I won't see it in my lifetime, I'm right, because I'm not going to live that long, okay? I'm old. I'm going to die, okay? You may see it. There may be some economic, but it'll be years. It'll be years. Folks, if you think 2.49 is coming around the corner, forget about it. Yeah, there may be a rate with a 3 and a 9.9 eventually. That may be a year.
Yeah.
That may be a year. That may be more. So, you know, and that brings us to the next question we keep getting. What do I do to help manage my renewal? And many people ask the same question. Should I pay down my mortgage? Should I make lump sum payments to my mortgage? Will that help?
That is
Will that help?
Yeah.
Okay. We get that question a lot, and it's a mixed answer. So it's no solution. I mean, the rate will go up, right? If your mortgage is smaller, then when they recalculate the payment based on the higher rate, because you've paid down your mortgage, maybe you paid $50,000, maybe you paid $20,000, maybe you paid $10,000, whatever you pay it down, when that renewal date comes and they do the recalculation, then it'll be recalculated on a smaller balance. Your payment will be smaller, but the rate is the rate.
Yeah.
Okay. But your payment will be smaller. Now, there's a flip side to that story. If you're at a very low rate now, and you know in 18 months you're going to be hitting a higher rate, would it be, and you also know the economy may be not doing so hot in the coming days, would it be more sensible to keep money to the side?
And that's that cushion. Why are you giving it where it's not doing anything for you when you can keep it as either your cushion or maybe of some sort of investment? Don't pull from your investment that's making you money. That's crazy.
100%. You hit the nail on the head. Yeah. Because when was the last time you get 5% interest on your bank term deposit?
Never.
Oh, it existed, but you just don't remember when it was.
Was I 4?
You were not 4, but you had not yet graduated high school. Okay.
Yeah.
So yes, it was a long time ago. So people are looking at it and saying, okay, so I pay down my mortgage, but my mortgage is at a low rate because I have old rates. Mm-hmm. So I have old fixed rates. I got 2.29, 2.49. Should I pay down even 3%? No. Should I pay down my mortgage at that low rate? I'm also a little worried it's going to go a lot higher when it renews, but I could just get a term deposit for 5%. Now, you do pay taxes on that, folks. Always remember, you have to consider after-tax earnings. So it's more like for most people, it's like a 3.25, 3.5% real rate of return after you pay the tax. But if that's higher than your mortgage interest, then it's kind of hard to justify. If 3.5 is higher than 2.9, then maybe leave it in the GIC. Okay. Sure. So those are the questions we get asked. The simple answer is yes, it will help in a way to make sure your payments will be smaller.
And that's because everyone, I still just had this conversation with a family member. He's in a variable. Should he have locked into a fixed rate? I told him to do it months ago, I think 2 raises ago.
Oh, well, if you'd have told him to do it like in January or February, March, you told him the right thing.
Exactly. But somebody else got involved and said, well, historically, the variable rate does better, this and that. And that all might be very, very true. If you're not 20-something years old and living payment to payment and need to know what you're paying, how you can live and manage your lifestyle.
Exactly.
If it's going to help you with your lifestyle, just to know what your payment is and this and that and keep the payment manageable, then that's absolutely what you have to do.
Yeah. But you have to do the math.
Yeah, you have to do the math.
And sometimes you have to shop because sometimes it's actually cheaper to pay the penalty on a variable and find the best rate on the 3-year or 2-year, whatever it is. Okay, so that's sort of what we see in the mailbag right now. One last thing. This was a couple of questions in the mailbag that just set me off. It set me off. People say, my bank called me and said if I wanted to, because my renewal's next year, and I have this rate that's like 3.19. If I wanted to, I could renew early and blend the rate, like renew a year early and blend the rate in order to protect myself. You see the air quotes of protect myself from a possible higher rate in the future.
Well,
so
that sounds
really,
like lipstick on a pig.
That's just fucked up. Okay, folks, please listen. If your renewal is a year away, or 18 months, or even 9 months, or even 8 months. Do not take the blend, okay? The blend is mathematically designed to fuck you, okay? Because it's not a good deal. Here, let me make it simple for you. Never give up a great rate for a worse rate unless you're very close to the renewal. And even then you got to shop. Even then you got to study. Even then you got to negotiate. But never give up a great rate for a blended rate that's higher, that's a year away or whatever. Because
that's not a crystal ball. That's a hazy garden ball.
But it's also I got the low rate in my hand. Okay, I got it. But so you're trying to make me scared? So I'll take the blended rate.
That's what he means.
Oh, fuck that! That's horrible. That is all wrong. Don't do it. Don't approach the bank and say, hey, can you blend this rate for me? Because I'm worried about what's going to be like in 18 months. Don't do that. Hold on to your low rate. Just hold on. A, we don't know what's going to happen in 18 months. Could be lower. B, it's a low rate. Don't fucking change it. Okay. Hold on to the low rate. It's important. All right. Now, a big thing I wanted to talk about today is how badly screwed up things are in this country. A lot of it's about tax. Okay? I know it's tax time. Everybody just filed, and corporations just filed, and
it was corporate tax.
Corporate tax filing, and it was like for self-employed people, they care about that, and for we've all gone through a filing in the last 3 months, and there's too much fucking tax in this country. Let's just say it openly. By the way, when I say stuff like this about government, I want to really meticulously point out that I am not talking about parties. I'm not.
No, it's a generalization.
It's a generalization, and I've got political opinions, but they're not what people think. Like, people think, oh yeah, you're this, you're that, or we hate it. And that's the crazy part about our country today. We hate certain politicians. Like, I gotta admit, I never in my life thought I'd see a bumper sticker that said, fuck the prime minister. Okay. I mean, I just never thought I'd see it. All right. I mean, hey, there's been a lot of bad shit in the past. Don't get me wrong. There was one time when Justin's dad, Pierre, was doing something that people didn't like.
Yeah.
And he put on a speech outside and people threw real shit at him. Not the pebbles they threw at Justin. Oh, people threw fucking bottles and rocks at Pierre. Okay. Like, it was wild. All right. So there's been hatred towards politicians in this country for a long, long time.
But yeah, but it's next level. But I think social media has a lot to do with it.
Social media has a ton to do with it.
I saw the most, I might get in trouble for the Hamilton thing ever during COVID. It was just
now we're going to be in trouble with the Hamilton folks.
From Hamilton, love Hamilton, but it was, and Hamilton people will understand this in Howell. The most Hamilton sign I ever saw was during one of the COVID rallies or whatever they had. And it was just a guy standing in the street. It just said, Trudeau is a goof rat fuck.
A goof rat fuck?
Yes, and that's the most Hamilton
That's
thing.
as Hamilton as it gets. Again, we're not trying to offend everybody in Hamilton.
No.
Sorry. I mean, it's a great town.
Wow.
Spend a lot of time there. We love Hamilton, but goof rat fuck. Yeah, that's a kind of a Hamilton.
Fuck.
That's a Hamilton expression for sure. That's for sure right.
But yeah, no, you're totally right. We've never seen it. But it's social media, and the next person will get it, and the next person after that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I don't particularly have political. I just keep my nose out of it, really. But
I can talk about politics all day long, but the truth is that when I talk about government, I'm talking about, in some cases, the bureaucracy of government. Okay, and I'm not, and people aren't interested in my thoughts on politics. There's a lot of political podcasts. Nobody gives a shit what I think about politically. But when I talk about government, I'm often talking about bureaucracy. So, but I'm talking about tax today because of one of the worst things that we've come to know about. Building houses, like we've talked about before, building houses crazy. Here's a stat for you. We talked about 1 million people coming to Canada last year.
Yes.
And they couldn't quite count them right and all that stuff. But anyway, it's crazy, right? Like, you're gonna please learn how to count. But here's an incredible stat. In the last 24 months, 1 million people have come to Ontario. In 24 months, 1 million people have come to Ontario. Like, what? I can't say which segment hasn't started yet, but that is just wild.
Yeah.
And here's an interesting comparison. Because you know from your real estate experience that the thing that's possibly even worse than batshit crazy house prices right now is batshit crazy rents. Okay?
We're in competition for leases right now.
Competition for leases. Okay? Like, unbelievable.
Can live in a basement for $2,500 a month. That just seems criminal to me. $2,500 a month, and you cannot see outside. You can maybe escape through the window in a fire, depending on your size.
If you're a child, you can get out the window. Yeah. If you're Ron, you're dead. You're just dead. I'm in that place, and it's Ron. There's no window. My fat fucking ass is getting out of. I'm dead. I'm burnt up. It's as simple as that. Okay,
it's insane. It just, I don't know where all these people are living, and it's just, I've dealt with a lot of lease clients, especially recently, and it's frustrating to say the least. The prices are insane.
Jesus, yeah.
And it's
borderline cruel.
It is. So not borderline, it is cruel.
So here's where we're at. 1 million people come to Ontario, and we have the highest rents and the batshit crazy house prices that exist here. They've been here for a while, the batshit crazy prices, but the rents have really gone wild in the last year, which if you bring in 1 million people, it's not too hard to figure out. So contrast with Quebec. I was doing contrasting with Quebec the other day. And in Quebec, house prices are half. They're half of Ontario. They're half. Well, I'm sure a lot of people in Quebec think they're expensive. Rents are significantly lower. And here's an interesting item. And always remember when I say this, folks, I am pro-immigration. I've said it on the show. Very much pro-immigration. But here's something to think about. In Quebec, they had a all-time high of immigration, almost exclusively due to refugees, okay, in their province for the last 2 years. And that total comes up to less than 200,000 people.
Wow.
In 2 years. Just almost exactly 200,000. Okay. And maybe there's a reason the house prices are lower and the rents are lower. By the way, Quebec is the only province that controls their own immigration. Every other province, the federal government just sends people.
Yeah.
Okay, you just come. There's an agreement with Quebec that they can limit their immigration to 50,000 per year.
Wow.
And while there's like 460,000 coming to Ontario a year,
mm-hmm.
Quebec, population of Ontario just knocked over 15 million. Population of Quebec's about 8.8.
Wow.
Okay. So it's by population, it's a much smaller province.
Mm-hmm.
But, and they're good. It's all good though. When there's times for refugees, they let them in. I mean, they did it. They house them. They do their level best. Nobody's going to get me to say anything bad about Quebec language laws. I'm not going to say anything bad about Quebec's desire to control their own culture. I lived in Quebec for 14 months. Mm-hmm. There's a lot to be said for their culture, to be honest with you. And I fully understand why some people who are a nation unto themselves have a right to say, we love the way we are. We have to protect our language, our French language, in an ocean of English that surrounds us in North America. And we're going to do some things to make sure that our culture survives. We love our culture. It's hard to fight that. I mean, people can make up their own decisions. And I'll tell you, truthfully, lived in Quebec, a lot of great things there. Things that, we could think about sometimes in English-speaking Canada. But it is fascinating that if you let in a lot less people, if you have a lot lower immigration, your house prices aren't batshit crazy. They're high, but
and demand.
They're not batshit crazy, and your rents are not batshit crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's just the truth. Talking to a very, very smart guy who lives in Montreal, is a banker who lives in Montreal, and we talked about it. And he says, well, it's in many cases, it's a dense city in many cases, but there are lots of single family homes. We talked about a little suburb called LaSalle. And
I have a friend that lives in LaSalle.
Sure.
It's beautiful.
And it's great. And the house prices there are quite reasonable. And
her
the mortgage
house is gorgeous.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the mortgage is quite manageable. Mm-hmm. Okay. And people are happy. And by the way, you could I think you can just get on it's like the equivalent of a subway, or it's equivalent of a train or something. But
yeah, something like that.
You can get downtown very easily.
I think within 15 minutes, maybe 20. Yeah.
Very good. Okay. Mm-hmm. So, it doesn't just have to be there's ways to have population density on an island, which is the island of Montreal, and still have rational house prices. Okay. I don't know. There's going to be like 25 comments in a minute. Like, you don't understand how damaged that economy is. And, you're wrong and you're dead wrong. And okay, all right, I'm wrong. But I think for the people who live there, those people who live there in LaSalle with $128,000 mortgages, they're happier.
Yeah.
I think some of them are happier.
They actually have the opportunity to be a homeowner. Whereas when you're here, that's the difference. They have an opportunity to be a homeowner. There's a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
Here, I would say that it gets thinner and thinner by the day, especially for new Canadians, young people, even middle-aged at this point. I have friends in their 30s and 40s. I don't know if it's achievable.
This is so true. I put up a TikTok video that talked about exactly what you just said.
Yeah.
Exactly what you just said, that the difficulty of people getting into the market in these super high price provinces like Ontario and British Columbia. And it had the highest level of responses and comments we've ever gotten. Mm-hmm. Okay. And basically the tagline of the video was "fuck you, geezer." Okay. So what I was talking about, people like myself who remember, because, interest rates are 5.5 today. Mm-hmm. And there's always a geezer that says, well, when I got my house, it was 18% interest and I got by and I bought that house. The house was so cheap. But the great comments, there's so many great comments came in about first of all, about saying, oh, God, thank a geezer for calling out the geezers. Thank you. There's a lot of that. Thank you, geezer. Thank you, fat geezer, for calling out all you fucking geezers on this thing, okay?
I'm starting my own podcast called Fat Geezer.
Fat Geezer, different podcast. And the other comments were, and it was sad. It was really terrible and sad that there was like 160 comments that were, you think a young person can buy a house? What's wrong with you? Okay, like that's sad.
Yeah,
that's such a what. I'm a young person. I don't think I'll ever be able to own a house.
And these are the most highly educated. This is the most highly educated generation.
Correct.
You know, if we're talking even people my parents' age, some of those people didn't even have the opportunity to go to school. It was just unheard of.
They didn't
straight
get,
to work.
No chance university.
That's it.
Yeah,
this is the generation that's coming up. Even people my age are the most highly educated.
Yep.
That's ever been, with the most student debt, making, you know, 6-figure salary. It's not,
sure.
Well, it's the, you know, some, they're doing it, you know, and they still cannot afford to buy.
You know, we keep coming back to these ratios. The key ratio that everybody has to remember that affects these two super expensive provinces for house prices in British Columbia and Ontario is that 25 years ago, it was 2.5 to 3 times average income was the price of a house. Whatever the house was, it pretty much represented 2.5 times average family income. And remember, 25 years ago, there was far fewer women in the workforce. It was sometimes that was a one-person income.
Yes.
So fascinating. I got some replies on that part too. Well, 25 years ago, guy put in a comment, said, "Right, 25 years ago, when minimum wage was $5 an hour in Ontario. Today it's like $16.50, I think. I'm not quite sure, but I think there's about that. So that's 3 times. The house is 10 times, for fuck's sakes. The house price is 10 fucking times. Okay.
And what's the dummy calculation now? Now it's 5 or 6 times your annual income. That's the mortgage. That's the dummy calculation of what you can afford.
It's really closer to 4.5. Okay,
yeah.
Is
I think we say 5.
Calculation for dummies.
But then put it that way. So if you're making $100,000 a year, which when you say it out loud, that sounds like a lot of money.
It is a lot of money, $100,000. Absolutely.
It is a lot of money, but that's $500,000. You tell me what the fuck you're going to buy for $500,000.
Well, you can you can't even buy a dog crate in the sky condo, 485 square foot condo downtown Toronto. It's like $560.
And that's the whole point.
So that's where we're at. It's all going wrong, but that's a meaningful thing that an actual fellow geezer, because I'm telling you, I can't remember what the fuck minimum wage was 25 years ago. But he said, I remember $5 an hour 25 years ago, $16.50 today.
I know my first job I made $6.25.
Yep. So that's fucked up. Like there is wage suppression in this country. There's clearly wage suppression. People are, wages have not, and particularly in this time of inflation we've experienced for the last 16 months. It's ridiculous that wages are not catching up. Yeah. They're just not. But
how much then you think of small business owners? What can they pay?
Oh, yeah. What can you pay? I mean, because, and guess
minimum
what?
wage goes to $25 an hour. And they're out of business.
That circles back to tax. Yeah. Like I said, we all filed for taxes, corporate tax, individual tax. We've all just gone through it. That's where we have the taxes are too fucking high in this country. Yep. Now, I'm not going to go to party, but I'm going to blame government on that shit. Okay. Taxes are too high. Every level is greedy. Here's the horror show of new builds today in Ontario. 31% of the price of a new build goes to some form of tax. Yes. Some form of tax, permit, development cost, development levy, some kind. You have to throw some money at a park that's in the area. Who the fuck knows what it all is, but it all adds up. And if you got $1 million house that's being offered for sale as a brand new home, $310,000 of that is tax of some form or another.
Oh, I love
federal tax, municipal tax, provincial tax.
I love it. Some of these places, though, you're paying what have you in property taxes per year. Yeah. And then they still slap a road fee on you.
Oh, Jesus. But let's talk about property tax for a second. That's a great point you raised. Let's talk about property taxes for a second, because what the fuck happened that we all of a sudden decided that, because when I was first came to this province and started looking at houses, I knew that the cost to the builder was a relatively normal cost. It might be $35,000 a lot. It might be, that was all the servicing and all the taxes and all the permits and everything. It might be $40,000 a lot. Where the fuck did we get to $310,000? Okay, for $1 million house? Because let's face it, $1 million house, pretty common house price, or a townhouse for Christ's sakes, in some parts of the GTA, on a new build. So what the fuck happened? Like, how do we get to this astronomical amount? And here's the insidious shit that's gone on, is that government, which hates to raise taxes on geezers who have owned houses for all these years, doesn't want to raise tax. We have some of the lowest property taxes in North America, in Vancouver and Toronto, and surrounding area. But because government has this infinite requirement for more and more and more money, okay? Because you might need a poet laureate in Toronto. Like, Toronto might need to pay somebody to be a poet, like the official poet. Oh, don't get me started. We got all this fucking shit that government wastes money.
Confusing.
It exists. It exists. The City of Toronto pays somebody to be a poet, for Christ's sake, for the city. Yeah. It's not a full-time gig, but it's just money disintegrated. So I like poetry, but it's money disintegrated. And we waste so much money, but we don't want to raise property tax. But if you stop and think for a minute, who should pay for the operation of the city? Should we gouge it out of the young person who's trying to buy a home? Should we take $310,000 out of them? And by the way, they've got to mortgage a big chunk of that, pay interest on that for all those 25 years, 30 years. And we're going to gouge it out of them. And I mean, and the property tax stays low for the people who've used the city for the last 20 years, okay? They've used it. They've had their roads plowed. They've had their trees cut when they died. They had all the access to all the services. They've had their garbage picked up all those years. This poor prick's paying $310,000 when he buys a house. He hasn't his garbage picked up once yet, okay? Like,
that's a good point.
It's fucked up. I mean, and it's really, really dangerous, okay? Because because those people vote, because those geezers in those houses for 25 years vote in the local elections so consistently, they call the shot on the councillors who said, well, when the councillors go behind closed doors and whisper to each other, yeah, let's just raise the development fees because I don't want to get in any trouble with the property tax guys. Let's just raise development fees. Those pricks haven't even moved in yet. Okay. Like, this is sick shit. We've got to get rid of that. We've got to stop that. We've got to make sure that that's got to end. That's got to end. And when I talk about taxes, that's what I really am talking about.
Yeah.
So, and that's dangerous. Like, let's just face it. That is dangerous. You're discouraging the next generation of people from owning homes, and you're going to drive them out of the country. Which brings us to our favorite segment.
What the actual fuck?
That's it. What the actual fuck is going on with people leaving Canada? Like,
I think we just described all of the
reasons.
We described
a lot of the reasons, but wake up, government. Wake up every level of government. You don't want your young people to get so pissed off they fucking leave, okay? You don't want that. That's crazy, all right? And you say, well, where do you get this crazy idea around that people are leaving? I'm telling you what, when I see these comments on TikTok, on Twitter, on this podcast, when I read these comments, I see, and sure, well, you realize people are just bullshitting in the comments. It's not really true. Well, I think some of it's true. Yeah. Some of it's probably fucking true, okay?
Well, there was a whole news story about it a few weeks ago.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's becoming commonplace to talk about it. Like,
my Uber driver was a freaking engineer somewhere.
Yeah.
And now he comes here, Canada, it's awesome place to live, healthcare. There's many positive things to be said about our country.
Sure, absolutely.
And we've talked about it before, red tape. Got to get through all of that before.
Red tape. Jesus.
Not that there's anything wrong with driving an Uber. He says he does very well, but the guy was a freaking engineer.
Look, that could be half of a pod, but
yeah,
the real essence of this is Canada, Ontario, all you cities in Ontario, Toronto, Mississauga, Brampton, all the rest, Oakville, you name it, Sault Ste. Marie, London, Windsor, KW, every level of government, wake the fuck up, okay? Mm-hmm. Like, we cannot have a country that people are so sad about the inability to own a home, the extreme costs of everything, the red tape, the aggravation, the difficulty with cost of living. Wake up, government. The idea that people would come here who wanted to get in and then think, I want to go back, or the idea that people in there who once they break through 30 and they think, well, I maybe like to get married and raise a family. Whoops. I can't do it here. This place is all fucked up. The price of houses is through the roof. And I just don't want to live in Brandon, Manitoba. We love you, Brandon. Brandon, we love you. Okay. But not everyone wants to live in Brandon, Manitoba. Not everybody wants to live in Lethbridge. Sorry, Lethbridge. I sort of said it again. I said it on a TikTok. But we love you, Lethbridge. But not everybody wants to live in those places. You know, I was just even talking to the lady who cuts my hair the other night. And she says, I can't leave. She says, I've got a customer base here. I'm not going to move to Saskatoon and start all over again at 48 to try to reestablish a clientele for haircutting.
Or commit to a 2-hour commute.
Or commit to a 2-hour commute. She says, I don't even want to commit to a 1 hour, for Christ's sake. She says, it's horrible. So government, listen to your people. If people are saying they want to leave because it's too hard, you're doing it wrong. Okay, you're just doing it wrong. It is a crisis. It needs action. Quit making promises. Olivia Chow, you promised your ass off. Let's just do something.
Yeah, deliver.
Okay, all right. We're out till next week. Avoid the smoke.
If you like the pod, well, don't just sit there. Go to YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and all the other ones and like the pod. And don't forget to subscribe so we can keep being angry at mortgages and swearing about mortgages. Angry Mortgage could use your support.